Hello everybody and welcome to Coding Edgar with me, Edgar Rodriguez, and today I'm going to bring you what is JavaScriptLandia. So I read this announcement on Twitter and it really caught my attention. The OpenJS Foundation, the one that is behind Node.js, Electron and Webpack, has a big announcement. But before going to that announcement, I will like to recapitulate a little bit about what is the OpenJS Foundation. So I wasn't very sure either, and I decided to go ahead and research them a little bit more to give you more context about them. So what is the purpose of the OpenJS Foundation? And their purpose is to promote the widespread adoption and development of key JavaScript solutions and related technologies. Okay, that's nice. Where did they come from? Well, in 2006, they started as jQuery. In 2009 is when jQuery joins the Software Freedom Conservancy. I have no idea what that was, but that's another story. The link is in the Medium post in the description below. In 2012, they decided to go into an independent foundation called the jQuery Foundation. In 2016, the Dojo Foundation merged with the jQuery Foundation, and then is when they rebranded to the JS Foundation under the Linux Foundation program. That is actually, even though it is an independent organization, they are still under the Linux Foundation program. I had no idea as well what the Linux Foundation program was, so I do some bit of research. Under their belt is things like Kubernetes, that I talked in my previous video. You can check it out here somewhere. And they have other great projects under their belt. And in 2019, the Node.js Foundation merged with the JS Foundation, and they form a huge umbrella called the OpenJS Foundation. And they foster the healthy growth of the JavaScript and web ecosystem as a whole. So they focus on big tech, it's not necessarily big tech, in big open source projects that are around web development, the web ecosystem. Not necessarily they have to be a JavaScript oriented, but they are web as a whole. Okay, so they are the ones behind JavaScript biggest projects then, and exactly, they are legit and they offer a nice environment for JavaScript open source community. So if you have a open source project and you want to have it's not endorsement, you would like to have the support of a community behind it, go check OpenJS Foundation and the people around them. Not just them, it's a program, but the community that is in the OpenJS Foundation. Okay, so what's the announcement? And the announcement is the OpenJS Foundation just created JavaScriptLandia, a home for those who love JavaScript, and that's their logo. So how does it work? Okay, so commonly the foundations, right? They have very complex ways to have funds. I mean, companies sponsor them, and the taxation and how they resource funds, it's very complex for a normal individual to participate. You know, maybe if you're a company and you're used to these kind of things, it's not so complicated. But for a simple person out there, it's a really complex way to participate into supporting an open source community, right? So JavaScriptLandia is this easy to understand model that looks much more to today's way to monetize the web, something like Patreon or something like Buy Me a Coffee or GitHub sponsorships and stuff like that. So it is cheap, and it costs 25 US dollars a year, which is it's a tiny bit more than $2 a month. And the benefits, it's a digital badge to add your online profiles, avatar blog, or personal website, recognition on their global supporter page on the OpenJS Foundation website, a supporters weekly newsletter keeping you up to date to the latest from OpenJS Foundation, the cross-project council, and the board of directors. And you will also be invited to participate in discussions about governance and new initiatives, which is nice if you are a full-time open sourcer, or if you are an agency that uses a lot of open source. That is nice to be on the loop, right? And you have discounts for training and certifications, conference, and other exclusive offers. They don't specify in their announcement blog how much those discounts are. I checked, they have really good training, and the certifications are for let's check it out. Let's see if I can go there. They have two certifications. One for a service developer, that is somebody that is certified in designing any kind of looking to demonstrate competence in creating RESTful Node.js servers and services or microservices, in a particular emphasis on security practices. And the OpenJS Node.js application developer, that is somebody that is looking to focus on the knowledge of Node.js core API. Okay, so one will be for servers, like an abstract server kind of thing, and the other one is an exam for common software developers of Node.js. I assume these are part of what used to be the Node.js Foundation programs, way to monetize themselves. And certifications are always nice to be able to have something that says, hey, I really know what I'm doing. So I'm not really against any kind of certification at all. Okay, so they do have great conferences. I've seen through YouTube, sadly. I've never attended any of them, but they seem like very, very nice. And considering how big they are, they surely have many conferences coming next year. But why though? I mean, why do they decide to make this program? So the motive behind the program, as stated in the announcement blog, is to make available a program perfect for people that aren't currently contributing to their projects, but are actively JavaScripters, actively programmers around the JavaScript ecosystem. And it's a method to join the OpenJS Foundation that isn't as expensive as a sponsorship, and will help members to know the projects as well as have more access to internals going on, so like the newsletter that I mentioned before. So yeah, if you want to be a sponsor, you usually have to contribute thousands of dollars to kind of be in a sponsor program and show your company's logo, etc. But if you're just one person that it really enjoys or really is eager to give back to those projects they have helped them in their career, this will be super nice. So I always wonder how they finance themselves, and actually this is just as easy as it gets. I mean, this is just as easy as paying a Patreon, or paying, I don't know, that's like depending on the restaurant, one meal or two, so it's not much. And I thought to myself, all right, so which projects are under this foundation? Because there is not only one JavaScript foundation around the JavaScript or web ecosystem. So I checked their projects, and they have them categorized on their life cycle, right? So first of all, they have impact projects, and the impact projects are ones that have reached growth goals and are now in a sustained cycle of development, maintenance, and long-term support. I mean, hugely about projects, like things that you will not know. And they have Appium that I've already used it a lot. It's very nice. So with Appium, you can test. Well, Appium is an open source Node.js server used for automating native, mobile, web, and hybrid applications on iOS, Android, and universal Windows platform. Okay, so this is like the puppeteer of cross-platform, and I've used it mostly to test React Native. I mean, not React Native, because I actually don't need to touch React Native at all. I use it to test React Native in Android and in iPhone devices themselves. Physical devices, virtual emulators inside macOS and inside Windows. And it works very nice. It had a big period of like stateless. I mean, it wasn't getting too much active development at one point, but today they have really good advancement and a very promising roadmap to better the use of Appium, because trying to make a unified interface for all of this, I mean, for web, for iOS, for Android, for Windows, that's a lot of work. I mean, saying like I want to click a button and that works everywhere is a huge task. So jQuery, of course, we all know jQuery, that doesn't need any explanation. And Node.js, Webpack, Electron, and Dojo. Dojo, actually, first time I hear about Dojo, so I said that, hey, these are huge, you already know them. But I didn't know Dojo, actually. A progressive TypeScript framework for building modern web apps with a focus on developer ergonomics. So I kind of checked their page, and they are like somehow like React, you know? I mean, not React, but it's a web framework, you know? And it's pretty nice, and it's pretty well established, and it's not a new technology at all. So I'm actually going to try to make maybe some tic-tac-toe in Dojo to see how it works, because it really got me thinking about it. Alright, so in the growth projects, they have a lot. They have NPM Architect, Fastify, Intern, Mocha, Node-RED, WebDriver IO, and WebHint. I've used extensively Mocha. Mocha, how do you pronounce that? Mocha? In Spanish it's Mocha, but I guess that in English it should be Mocha, like a mochaccino, maybe. WebDriver IO, I've used it a lot because I really enjoy testing. So that's a WebDriver protocol, right? And it helps me, for example, in the like with Appium or with Puppeteer or something, I can access Chrome through WebDriver IO, and it's very nice. I haven't used the rest, but I've heard a lot about NPM. At-large projects. At-large projects are those which the CPC believes are okay, or have the potential to be important to impact projects in particular, or the ecosystem in general. They may be early stage projects just getting started, or they might be long established projects with minimal resource needs. So this probably is a program with less budget for the project. So that's why they say, okay, if it's starting, it needs less budget, and if it's established but it doesn't need much budget, then it's a large project. So wow, I'm really surprised that all of these guys are in the same boat, because I thought they belong to different organizations, because they are actually huge. Like the amount of thought on errors on the technical difficulties of these projects is considerable. So I really thought these were different financed by different organizations, and they are all here. So SDN is huge. LibUV, this is the one that is primarily developed for use by Node.js. Okay, so in Node.js, the thing that you say how thing is multi-threaded and it doesn't, it's not blocking, etc. So it's all thanks to libUV. And Lodash, huge. Moment, huge. I've used it a lot. Grunt, huge. Express, I mean the minimal Node.js framework application, the most used. Globalize, a JavaScript library for internalization and localization. It works perfectly, it's amazing. I've used them a lot, extensively. I haven't used the rest, but I can. Oh well, I've heard a lot about message format. I haven't used them, but I mean just those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just those 7. They are so much work. I can't believe they're all here. And the incubation projects like native scripts empowers developers to access native APIs from JavaScript directly, which is super nice for progressive web application and stuff like that. And NVM, that is a Node version manager. So it's a if you use Node, I'm sure you use NVM. When you want to install different Node versions in your computer, you install NVM, and now you can install multiple Node versions without worrying about the installation folders or anything. It takes care of everything. It works perfectly. I've never had a problem with NVM, and those are just like I'm saying here, like 100% excited that these projects are getting financed. And the emeritus projects are projects are those which the maintainers feel have reached or are nearly end of life. So emeritus projects have contributed to the ecosystem but are not necessarily recommended for modern development, as they might be more actively maintained choices. So the foundation appreciates the contribution of these projects and their communities and the role they have played in moving the ecosystem forward. So you have things like Chases, jQuery UI, CISO, jQuery Mobile, and Require.js. So Require.js, jQuery UI, jQuery Mobile are huge, and I use them a lot when I was starting to code. And because they were actually the only thing I used for several years, because there was nothing else, I think, or I thought probably there was, but I wasn't as community engaged. So it was all I knew, and that was all the people that taught me and the community around me knew. So pretty big emphasis on those, and thanks to them we have many advancements. So it's 100% true. Well, so I thought these projects and I said, yeah, you know what, yeah, that's great. I mean, I've used freely these projects, and never pay for them. If I have an issue, I issue it and they solve them. If I have a contribution, a conversation, if I have a small problem, I can look through the community and ask people, and I use them every day. I mean, without these projects, my career will have been pretty stuck. I mean, we can provide as engineers so much value because we step in the shoulders of these projects, of these giants, because it's like, okay, so maybe a web application and you don't have to use GIS, or make they bring so much. Even today we don't make, for example, servers itself. Like a standalone service, we make cloud functions, and they are a possibility thanks to things like Node.js. Thanks to these things, of course, today we can make cloud functions using other technologies, but for a long time Node.js was the only option. And even today, the best performing cloud functions are thanks to Node.js. And I'm still using heavily many of these guys. So I saw this and I thought, for $25 a year, that's so nice. Nobody's paying me for doing this post at all, in case you were wondering, because I was very like selling something, and I'm not. I'm just telling you because they are right. I've met many developers that are also like me, like they know they can bring this much value to the companies they work because they know new technologies that they can use and implement and be of great value to the companies they are working with. And it's not like they are introducing a link formatter, for example, that hugely impacts positively their team communication, and they are like, I made it. You didn't make it. You just knew it existed and you used it and implemented it. So they know this for sure and for truth, and they always feel like, hey, they give me so much and I haven't given them back anything. So many developers start to write blog posts and making videos just like this one, try to promote them, teaching people how to use, giving back to their communities, being active on their chats, on their GitHubs, on their Twitters. And it's because they feel in depth with the huge value that they have given them. So if there was an easy way to say hey, can you contribute to my development? I really need it. Just for $25 a month, which is like a second of web developer salary. That is like, all right, I have $25. It's like, come on, that's perfect. Perfect to feel like you contributed back to those who give you so much. So I'm very sure that you're going to appreciate there is an option to clear your conscience, like saying, hey, I use these tools and I contribute to them as well, and I'm part of the communities. So thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.